Hello, my name is Thomas Pasertia. This is for INF 7492, Module 12, Workflow and Integration. In this presentation, I will be talking about storytelling and data visualization. There were two primary readings for this module of this week. I will be talking about the two. Uh, the first is Fundamentals of Data Visualization by Wilk, and that will cover chapter 29. The next reading will be Storytelling with Data, a Data Visualization Guide for Business Professionals by Knaflic, and that will be chapter 10. I will also briefly discuss Data Visualization and Information Literacy by Womack towards the end of the discussion, before the discussion post. During this time, I will be talking about the readings and talking about the topics of data visualization and storytelling, as well as the importance of it. So the first part of this presentation is for chapter 29 in Wilk's book, and the chapter is titled Telling a Story and Making a Point. The goal of this chapter itself is to explain how people can use multiple data visualizations to create a story arc. That chapter is divided into the following parts. What is a story? Make a figure for the generals, build up towards complex figures, make your figures memorable, and be consistent but don't be repetitive. The first part is what is a story? Now, a story is obviously a set of observations, facts, or events that is structured in a certain way to appeal to a certain audience. Storytelling is told in various ways. In this way, it's told with multiple images and data visualizations. So whether that be charts, pictograms, or any of that sort. It is essential that audiences react well to presentations using mainly data visualization stories. And also data visualizations will require multiple images when it comes to storytelling. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, data visualizations with storytelling will require multiple images. So for example, this is a perfect example of storytelling just using data visualization. This is the image of a company, and it gives a brief history of its growth from its beginnings to current day. Obviously, the images for story visualizations change and are different from one another depending on the topic of that's being discussed. Storytelling using data visualizations require key components. The first is make a figure for the generals. This refers to Wilk's chapter 9 section of the chapter, where he talks about a scenario where he had to give a presentation to a bunch of military leaders and was responsible for creating data visualizations for that presentation. And after the meeting, they could not understand the presentation. They could not understand the data visualizations. Now, one could argue that that's the fault of the military generals, but that's actually not the case. Data visualizations need to be simple and effective to audiences. If they cannot comprehend the visualizations themselves, then the audience will not be able to understand the message that you are trying to convey. So it is important to make it simple and effective. It is important to use tools like charts and pictograms and other resources to help make the presentation easier. Organization is crucial when it comes to visualization for presentations. So obviously this is not from the chapter, but this is an important point. So if you look at the first image on top, that is a chart of the coronavirus, of number of days, daily deaths. And it talks, and if you look at it, it's not exactly that good of the figures aren't exactly that well thought out. I mean, you can locate them, but it's not told in an organized manner, not presented at least. However, if you look, and there's not much information you can learn about it, but if you look at the image below, not only does it talk about the cases of coronavirus throughout the world, it talks about the confirmed amount of cases, those that have recovered from it, and those that have unfortunately died from it. It's important, if you look at the figures at the bottom, it gives a very organized way of showing how to present storytelling information with data visualizations. Organization, is crucial when it comes to using data visualizations for presentations and storytelling. The next important section of a chapter is to build up towards complex figures. So sometimes people don't want to use complex figures when they're making data visualizations. Unfortunately, that's not always possible. So the best way to deal with that is to use a simplified version of the visualization that you're planning to use before the complex version. So for example, on the top page is a image from the chapter of the amount of planes that will arrive and depart from that week for a certain airport. And if you look at the picture below, it has that same image, but it talks about other companies such as United, Delta, Envoy, and others. And the reason why it's important, the first image is important because it gives a very good way of showing how to understand something like this and to make sure that you comprehend what the figures are saying, because they are crucial when it comes to the visual presentation. So at the end of the day, it's better to go through each figure using a step-by-step method instead of other ways to make it seem easier, but it makes the whole process much more difficult. The next one is to make your figures memorable. It's very it's not uncommon for people to want to try to make figures on graphs and charts look the same, but it's important to make sure they are distinguishable from others, because if you can't, it makes it harder for audiences to pinpoint the certain figures that you're trying to make in an argument or a case. So, for example, the best way to make them memorable is to use different objects such as charts and pictograms and other tools that can help representation with your message. So the perfect example I have here is a chart of presidents on Washington, D.C. The chart itself talks about presidents that mention the word Washington, D.C. in the state in their State of the Union addresses. What's great about this is not only is the graph colorful, and not only does it give you the statistics, but it also gives you pictures of certain presidents who mention the Washington, D.C. in their State of the Union addresses. So an example like this is why you should make your figures memorable, so it can help you distinguish certain figures from other figures in presentations. The final point from this chapter is to show consistency without being repetitive. Consistency is important when you're giving a presentation or when you're making any storytelling method with data visualization. If you look, this is from the book, this is from the chapter itself. If you look at the top image, it's basically the same data provided in the second image. But the thing about the first image is that it is very repetitive from the image above it. And that just makes the whole process look messy and unorganized. However, if you look at the image below, you can see that the first step gives the stock price for Facebook, but also talks about other companies below, but in a more organized manner. You use those different tools to maintain consistency without being repetitive. The next part is Chapter 10, Final Thoughts. This is reviewing important principles and ideas that are presented throughout the book that we were taught this semester and used this semester. And in this final chapter, this chapter 10, uses tools to help, uses ideas and tools to help you prepare for future potential projects. They're divided into where do we go from here, building storytelling, and quick recap. So where to go from here, these are important, is to learn how to use tools well, iterate and send feedback, spend time practicing storytelling using data, seek inspiration from others that practice storytelling using data, enjoy the process, continue to be creative. These are simple but effective ways to help make sure you continue to use that knowledge that you learned from this book for future projects. The other is to help everyone enhance their skills, invest in internal experts, outsource combined approach. This is all important because not only will you be working on data visualization projects, but you most likely will be working with a team or even an organization. And it's important to have some sense of credibility and help get things done and help find ways to help your team and work with others. It's just a quick recap. What we learned from in the chapter is to understand the context, understand appropriate visual display, eliminate clutter, so get rid of things you don't need after analyzing those visualizations, decide what you want to keep, decide what you want to get rid of, focus on what you want for each visualization, think like a designer, and then finally tell the story. Before I talk about the discussion questions, there is a very interesting aspect of Womack's reading, the additional reading that was mentioned earlier, about how the entire premise of that reading is to try to get people in the academic world, to learn more about visualization and data and using it for presentations and so forth. That reading, along with the primary readings, helped me come up with two discussion questions. They are, how can we help people better understand the importance of data visualization in the professional world? And what do you think is the most important aspect of data visualization and storytelling? And please explain why you think the aspect that you chose is the most important. Thank you for your time.